Charter schools are public schools, and charter schools began in 1991 in Minnesota, and they began sort of as a laboratory experiment. You know, it was thought that there were certain restrictions that traditional public schools had, and that if we could just do some things differently, we could help students to be more successful. And charter schools began to be this outlet for students, administrators, you know, teachers to be more creative, to think outside the box.
Let America be the dream the dreamers dream. Let it be the great strong land of love, where never kings connive or tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above.
You don't have to look far when you look at test data to see who the students are that are at the bottom of every category. We're talking about boys, specifically Black and Latino boys. And when we look at the life trajectory for these same boys, we know that it's tragic. You know, we're talking about hopelessness, we're talking about unemployment, we're talking about incarceration, we're talking about homicides. And if our boys are educated, we know that we can change that trajectory.
I like the enthusiasm we have going up. Opportunities, wonderful.
So for us, you know, it was extremely important for us to create an environment where we can foster the type of positive attitudes, the type of motivational expectations, the focus on education that would help these boys be put on a track to college.
All right, I need that energy. This is how we start our mornings. Jordan, kick it.
I got a feeling. I got a feeling, Panthers. I got a feeling. This upper school don't know we the best. Ha!
Woo! Let's go. Oh yeah, you gotta feel it. Come on, you gotta feel it.
Woo-wee, Panthers! Woo-wee, Panthers! Break it! Ha! Break it! Ha! Ha!
Absolutely, the achievement gap can be closed. It takes a lot of hard work. Our teachers, we definitely go the extra mile. It's not like, this is a lifestyle. It's not a job. You can't clock out at 4 o'clock. It's an investment.
I'm a Tuskegee Airman, and when I was young, I wanted to become a pilot. That was my dream. That was my final.
We preach excellence in behavior, academic mastery, and leadership. Respect and responsibility. And these are the values that we build on. I refuse to give them a crutch of, you know, you from there, it's not gonna happen, settle for this. Absolutely not. I think it's giving them a sense of possibility, letting them know, like, no, this is possible. And I think it's gonna go a long way.
We tell our young men, you're no longer ordinary when you come to this school, you're extraordinary now. You know, extraordinary young men have a longer school day. Extraordinary young men, you know, have homework every day. You know, and because you're now extraordinary, you can live up to these things. You know, so when you have your friends back in the neighborhood asking you why you wear that shirt and tie, or why do you go to an all-boys school, it's because you're not ordinary anymore, because you're on the track for college. And that's what our young men understand.
Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
Are you sure?
Yes, sir.
If you're ready, let me get a big fat, oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Line it up.
Charter is a choice, right? And, you know, certainly any school is not one size fits all. You know, this is not going to be the perfect environment for every 5th, you know, through 8th grader. And we realize that for the young men that are buying into our philosophy, the parents that are buying into our philosophy, they're going to do well. They're going to excel.
A magnet school essentially is a school that specializes in a specified area. So for example, at our school, the magnet is the arts programs, and that is what attracts students to that program, which is why we got the name magnet. The difference between a magnet school and a charter school is that a magnet school is associated with a school district. So, for example, Calloway School is a red clay public school. We just happen to specialize in the arts area, as opposed to the Charter School of Wilmington is not bound by the same regulations of red clay school. They're still bound by public legislation, by state legislation, but not the district legislation.
the scores of our students are very, very high, and I do say that that's because our students are creative thinkers. They can think outside the box, they can solve problems. They're not just answering multiple choice questions in a didactic way. We have computers for that now. I think our students have a step way beyond many other schools because they are allowed to relate right and left brain thinking all the time, all day long.
This year we had just over 1,000 applications for fewer than 300 seats, so there's always a waiting list for our school, and it's really difficult. I mean, all of the students still audition. You know, usually magnet schools are able to assess based on whatever it is they're specializing in. In ours, it's all by audition in their arts area. And then from there, we move into that whole lottery portion of where do you live? Are you a Red Clay resident? Do you have a sibling in our school? Are you not a Red Clay resident? And then students are selected through the lottery section there.
And why is that a good example of?
Our purpose here is not to send children into the world as Picassos or Mozart. It's to really infuse the arts into everything we do. My curriculum is exactly the same as any other middle school. However, they tell us what to teach, but they can't tell us how.
Lugubrious, antithesis, copious, capitulate, dubious, sanguine, accolade, vociferous, archaic, mendicant, matriculate.
I think one thing that I try to do with my kids is I try to make it meaningful to them. You know, when they come to me, they've had their iPod, they've had their Xbox, they've had their Kindle, they've had their computer. And if they come to me and I say, open your textbook to page 35, I probably lost them by the time they get to page 36. So I think a teacher's job today has changed. I'm not saying we're in the business of entertaining, but you definitely have to make your curriculum mean something to the children. That's the slide I want you to read. So act like the teacher. Go stand up there. When I first started, my children were passive. I did all the teaching. And now I allow my children to do most of the interaction. I introduce it, and then they go with it.
So today we're talking about figurative language. Authors use many types of figurative language in order to help the reader visualize.
So the arts is actually an avenue for excelling across the board, and our students are actually ranked second in the state, only to the Charter School of Wilmington, and they excel across the board in the math and sciences in all areas.
What clue does the word alliteration give? I think magnet schools are wonderful because children get something that they're interested in. Whether it be math or science, whether it be creative arts, they sign up for something, they've bought into it. You feel, when our kids come here, they feel special. They feel like, wow, this is my school. I was accepted here.
Robust, mollified, chastised, inept, opulent.
Good job.
That was so much better.
Woo!
This conversation is taking place at the DuPont Environmental Center in the Russell W. Peterson Wildlife Refuge.
We're at the DuPont Environmental Education Center on the riverfront in Wilmington talking with Delaware Senior Senator Tom Carper. Welcome, Tom. You've been involved for some time now trying to get the Postal Service back on track. I must say, a formidable task. And you've actually gotten a bill that would reorganize the Postal Service past the Senate, and it was my understanding that the House promised that it would go along with it, but it won't. Why?
I think in the Senate we're better at working on bills, legislation across the aisle, and our bill in the Senate is very much a bipartisan bill, and it's designed to help the Postal Service right-size itself, right-size the enterprise, and to move back toward a more balanced, financially balanced situation. Mostly on the spending side, helping them to be more efficient, but also to help them grow revenues. And it's not just a cut deal, there's a need to be innovative and creative. Over in the House, they tend to want to pass things entirely on Republican vote in many instances. And I talked with some of their leaders last week over there and said, why are you doing this? And they said, well, we can't get a bipartisan bill. I said, we'll try. And I talked to the Democrats, I talked to the Republicans over there. Why don't you guys just sit down and try? So my hope is that they will.
Before August 1st, before the recess?
I sure hope so, you bet, yeah.
Well,
it's funny that because they found time in the House. They found time to vote against to repeal Obamacare 33 times. They found time to go after Eric Holder literally for weeks, months, our Attorney General, but yet they can't find time to bring for a day or two postal reform legislation to the floor. When we're losing 25 million a day, it's an industry that helps tie together 7 or 8 million jobs. I mean, this is something that should command some priority.
Yeah, you'd think so. I mean, you'd also think that there'd be some compromise around the whole financial cliff that we're walking towards, but you don't see it. I mean, people. I mean, you must hear it. You're back home now. People aren't happy. I mean, Congress is. You know, your rating has gone up. You're now all the way up to 14% of approval.
Interesting that we just saw a poll last week, not one that I took, but it was taken by others. And I think the approval rating for Congress is about 9 points. The approval rating in Delaware for our congressional delegation is about almost 60 points above that. So people like what we do here. And the idea that we work across the aisle, we're results oriented, we want to get things done. That's the Delaware way. And the question I hear the most on is, why can't Washington be more like Delaware? And what Chris Coons, John Carney and I try to do every day there is to model Delaware.
But you did it with Bill Roth too. I mean, before you went down there, Joe and Bill Roth and Mike Castle worked together 2 hours in a day. I mean, it's not about party, is it? I don't think so.
It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But the world's changed a little bit. My hope, and there's some people that end up in the House after the last election. They thought they were sent there basically to say no, to stop things, almost everything from happening, even if it means going into default for our country. So my hope is that some of those moods will be and views will be tempered by this election, and maybe some of the people who feel like they really don't understand the need to communicate and compromise, that some of those people will not be invited back next year by their voters.
You've also had a pretty significant interest in the Patient Protection Affordable Care Act, Obamacare, if you will. Now that the Supreme Court has pretty much endorsed the legality of pretty substantial portions of it, it seems to me it's time to move on and start implementing it. What's it going to mean for people in Delaware? You know, how are lives going to change with this?
Well, little known, one of the major provisions in the legislation creates large purchasing pools in every state across the country, including in Delaware. People say to me, why can't I have the same kind of health care that you do, Senator Carper? And actually, they will be able to. And we're going to create, I don't get special health care. I'm one of 8 million people, federal employees, retirees, dependents, postal employees, retirees, dependents, who participate in a large purchasing pool for health insurance called the Federal Employee Health Benefit Plan. And we're trying to create, and we will create in every state across the country, something like that. And with a large purchasing pool, you drive down rates, there's more competition, more health insurance companies want to offer their products, you have lower administrative costs. We're going to establish one here in Delaware, Maryland, and so forth. And if states want to, they can create an interstate compact so that Delaware and Maryland, or Delaware and New Jersey, Delaware and Pennsylvania can have a multi-state purchasing pool.
Well, what I'm hearing is Delaware has been looking for partners and not really finding them with states with similar sizes, Montana, Rhode Island, and that the likelihood is that we'll join whatever the federal government is going to offer, be part of that exchange. Does that make sense to you?
It may. What Delaware needs to do, and what every state has to do, is look at their options and decide, does it make sense to have their own individual purchasing pool with maybe, I don't know, 100 or 150, 200,000 people in it? Does it make sense to partner with maybe a surrounding state or a state that's not even contiguous to us? And then do what makes sense. Do what makes sense. And one of my focus, John, in healthcare reform has been for several years now, is not so much, it's important to extend coverage to people who don't have it, but unless we figure out how to rein in the growth of healthcare costs and get better healthcare results for less money, we're never going to be able to extend that coverage for long. So my focus has been, how do we find ways to get better results for less money? There are all kinds of ways, and we're beginning to do them in here and across the country.
Do you think people understand the benefits that this new law has for them, like less expensive insurance, like coverage for children? You know, you can't be denied for a pre-existing condition. I mean, I had a conversation with a person who hated Obamacare, and when I started to talk, I mean, you know, her eyes went up, and she still hated it, but maybe less so. But she didn't have any idea what was in it.
Well, the focus has been on this mandate. Is it constitutional? Is it not? Is it a tax? Is it a fee? And that's really, it's not an unimportant issue, but it's more of a side issue. The dirty little secret, if you will, on the Affordable Care Act is that we have for years spent money for healthcare in this country when people get sick. In a lot of countries, and places like the Mayo Clinic, Cleveland Clinic, Geisinger up in PA, Kaiser Permanente, they are a different kind of healthcare delivery system. They spend money to keep people well, on prevention and on wellness. They spend money, they coordinate the delivery of healthcare using electronic patient records, using something like the Delaware Health Information Network to help enable healthcare providers to work as a team rather than as a bunch of individual actors.
The Health Information Network is a model for the country here in Delaware. And yet there are people here who don't want to play. Some doctors don't want to be part of it.
Maybe not, but Delaware, one of the last things we did in my second term as governor was to say, why don't we create a Delaware Health Information Network to enable providers, hospitals, doctors, nursing homes, and others to be able to access patient information, lab tests, MRIs, and so forth, and so that they can better work as a team and provide health care for folks.
And avoid
15 years.
mistakes.
And now we have that. We're the first state in the nation that has that, and we just had an event recognizing ChristianaCare. They got a $10 million federal grant to enable them to provide better outcomes for folks who have heart disease, heart attacks, and a big part of that was the use of the Delaware Health Information Network. And I sat there feeling like a proud papa, and hearing the reason why, out of all the hospitals in the country, that one was chosen because of what we have in Delaware.
Thank you, Senator.
Pleasure.
This conversation is taking place at the Delaware Theater Company.
With me today is Kathy Buderbaugh on this amazing set at the Delaware Theater Company. Kathy, the Wilmington Drama League has a very long and impressive history. Tell us a little bit about how the Drama League came to be and where it is today.
Well, it began as a group that wanted to perform theater in 1933. At that point, a lot of the social circles would bring actors for a staged reading to their parties. And then it just, got more and more involved and more people. The building that exists today, we've been in, I haven't been there since 1939, but 1939, where it is at Shipley and Lee Boulevard. And it has brought more and more organizations to it. As we were talking about earlier, the Brandywiners performed in that building. We've been home to a lot of different theater groups. ATA used to perform there as well. So, it's all one big happy family as a community of Wilmington theaters.
And now, as a well-established community theater, what does that mean? Who do you engage in this, and what is the mission of the Drama League today?
The mission of the Drama League is just to perform really high quality theater, and it's a teaching organization. We are run by a board of directors, which is all volunteers. We have one paid employee, and that is me. And it's a group of people that just perform really high quality theater and work together as a team.
Could you speak to the range of skill sets that you look for in volunteers? Because it's not all just the actors on stage.
No, there is an absolute place for anyone in our organization, from costumes to sets to props to ushers to box office to working in the bar. There's just everything. And there are people that come for just cleanup days, and they help us improve the theater. It's just normal people doing extraordinary things because they're part of a group.
What can you say about the range of programming? I know you seek to serve people of all ages. How is that manifested in your programming?
Well, when the Drama League started, it was an adult, organization, and quite a long time ago, it had a children's organization, which was called the Children's Wing, and that developed into a group called Chrysalis. And we have education programs. We have a one-act festival in the summer for the youth that is run by the youth and written by youth. And we have a Chrysalis board where youth and adults each hold the same office and are held to the same standards. So we have everything from just beginning acting classes to workshops on directing, and very big mentor program. We bring in teenagers or sometimes 10-year-olds, and they work with someone who's done it for a while. So I think probably my youngest director in one of the one-act festivals was 10 years old, and they're learning that responsibility.
Now, what about the range of programming artistically? You know, types of plays, types of musicals that you do?
Well, every year the Artistic Development Committee seeks to bring in a wide range of shows, from comedies to classics to musicals, to just, you know, really offbeat kind of things you don't see very often. And everyone knows in this business that you have to do a real delicate balance. If the public doesn't know what the title is, it's, you know, it's kind of risky business to do it. But we try to, you know, do the wide range and the favorites, and so that's part of what they look at when directors bring proposals for the next season. They look, oh, how many comedies balanced with the classics, which we bring in school shows for and things like that. We seek to be educational sometimes in our theater as well, but sometimes it's just fun.
Now, for people who aren't particularly familiar with the Drama League, what is some little-known fact or tidbit that you would like to convey to them?
I would have to say that they'll be incredibly surprised at the quality. We don't sit around thinking of ourselves as a community theater. We have some really experienced people who have studied for years and worked for years. So I would have to say that the professional quality of the shows that we do there kind of betrays the price, let's put it that way. We're a bargain, and our people are not paid, but they work at a professional level.
Well, Kathy, thank you so much. It's been great chatting with you, hearing about the great work of the Wilmington Drama League.
And we hope to see, you know, everybody there as audience and on the stage.
Great, thanks.
Our family's been here since the late 1700s. We have 75 acres here in Hocassin, Delaware. We are primarily a dairy farm. We have about 32 cows that we milk and use a quarter to a third of the milk for ice cream. And my parents are both involved in the farm still. My father is out milking every single day. The jerseys came from the Isle of Jersey originally, over in the UK. They're a smaller animal than some of the other dairy breeds, and they don't produce as much milk, but they have a higher quality milk, and by that I mean the milk has a higher butterfat content to it, and it has more proteins and solids in it than some of the other breeds do. So for our ice cream operation, they work very well. We have crops to harvest, we have compost to haul to the fields when it's ready and spread. That's the farming operation in a nutshell. It's a 7-day-a-week job, and it's something that you don't do because you feel like you're going to get rich, because you won't. But you do it because it's something that you want to do. On the ice cream side of it, we have, we have production where we have to manufacture the ice cream and work with a dairy that makes our ice cream mix for us with our milk, and so we have to deliver milk to them and bring back mix and wholesale deliveries and that sort of thing.
We're basically a family destination. People can come out and enjoy ice cream sundaes, milkshakes, come outside, sit amongst the picnic tables, which used to be a pasture, and can look across the fields. So it's just very relaxing.
Having the local farms are just invaluable, I think, because you've got people who actually have a stake in the area, in the community, who are running businesses, and it keeps the open space open without any cost to the citizens, really. They're supporting their local farmers, which they really like to do, and they feel like the freshness and the quality is second to none because it's right there. It's your next door neighbor.